this is the file right here. And yours might be a little bit different. Maybe your colors are different, and but in general, I think everyone should be pretty familiar with this. And I've got 3 tabs down here. I've got a floor plan. I have a furniture plan. And I got a lighting plan. And for whatever reason, I don't have the schedule, lighting schedule on here, but that's okay. That's fine. We won't need it. And so the first thing I'm going to do is, just so that I'm not working on the CAD 1 file, I'm going to do a save as. And I'm going to give this a new name, and I'm still going to call it Project 8, but I'm going to call it Elevations. So we've got those 3 sheets, and our goal is to have a 4th sheet, and it's going to have 3 elevations on here. This is the south elevation, and I'll show you on the plan where it is. The south elevation is here on the left side of the plan, and the west elevation is this one with the fireplace. And then I've got a north elevation, which is this short little piece of wall here. So today we're going to block out all 3 of these, and I'm going to try to get this done and maybe this elevation done today. And then ultimately next week we'll finish up these elevations. We'll do the plan, the key plan here, and then we'll set up a sheet 4. So that's the goal. And then on that handout, there are some enlarged elevations here with some dimensions on it. And this does not have all the dimensions that you're going to need. So, you know, if you got a printer handy right now and you have this handout handy, print it out so you can write down some extra dimensions as I go through this. So these are our elevations. That's our key plan. So that's our goal for this project, or for this first part. All right, I'm going to put this on my other screen so I can see it. Okay, so I'm gonna draw my elevations over here to the right. I want to keep this plan because I want to keep these each of these sheets here. So I'm going to keep that plan just the way it is. And then I'm going to put the other elevations here. So I'll start with this elevation over here. And, you know, there's a lot of measuring involved in, you know, we want everything to be accurate. So rather than redraw everything, we've got like all the dimensions, and we have all of these windows and this cabinetry already placed. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this piece of wall, and I'm going to put it over here and then rotate it so that we can just pull down, and you'll see as I'm doing it, we'll just be able to pull down and get our windows placed and our cabinetry and all of that stuff. And the same for the fireplace and the other elevation too. So when I move this stuff over, there's a lot of stuff I don't need to drag with me. And if I copy like that much, it's gonna, you know, it's taking the dimensions and it's taking electrical and all kinds of stuff like that. And I don't need that stuff. So what I'm going to do is, just for now, temporarily, I'm going to freeze some layers. So, and this is just a nice little review for freezing layers if you haven't done this in a while. So there's a couple ways to do it. You can go find the layer you want to freeze, and then that little sun, just click on it and it freezes those layers. You can see that sun turns into a little snowflake, and those layers are frozen. And you know, you can just go through and find all the layers and just freeze them. Or, and this is what I like to do, is right underneath here, there's a little button called freeze. And if I click on it, my cursor turns into a pick box, and I can just click on any layers that I want to freeze. Oh, lighting is my current layer, so it won't freeze it. So let me let me change my current layer to something else. I'm going to go to line weight medium, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But so I'm just going to freeze that, and I don't even need this plumbing, and I don't need that. I'll leave the millwork because I want to see it. I don't need these dashed lines either, so I'll freeze those too. Okay, good. So now let's move, or not move, but copy this stuff. So I'm going to grab this wall. I'm going to grab this millwork because I want to see it. I want to make sure I got the windows selected. That looks good. And I'm just going to just move it over here. And not move it, but copy it over there. And then I'm going to rotate it. So I'm going to rotate it. I'm rotating it clockwise so that the interior face of that wall is facing down, because my elevation is going to be below it. So so the interior of the room is this part. This is outside, this is inside. All right, same with this one. So I'm going to copy that stuff and just pull it over. That's good. And I don't need to rotate this one inside, below, down, and outside, up. Good. And now, last but not least, oops, what did I do there? Copy that piece of wall. And I'm going to put that over here. And then I will rotate this. So now this one, I'm going to rotate counterclockwise. And I want to make sure that the inside is down and the outside is up. Otherwise your elevations will be reversed, will be backwards, or you'll be elevating the outside of the building. And you don't want to do that. Okay, good. So now, before I forget, and also make sure that you're copying and not moving stuff out of the room. I have done that in the past. So now I want to turn all my layers back on. So I'm just going to go here, and I'm just going to just click and just get these all turned back on. All right, good. And you know what? While I'm at it, I'm going to just do a quick save. Okay, so the way I'm going to start is I'm going to draw a rectangle for each one of these elevations. So first I'll start with the floor. Okay, so all right, let's talk about line weights or layers here. So I've got, here, let's just open up my layer properties here. So I've got a whole passel of layers here, and the three that we're going to concentrate on the most right now is this line weight dark, line weight light, and line weight medium. And it looks like I'm on line weight light, but I'm going to switch to line weight medium here. And I'm going to just draw all of my elevation line work on line weight medium. And then later on, like next week or the week after, we'll tweak these line weights so that, or tweak the layers that these lines are on, so that we have better reading drawings. So we've got light lines and dark lines and medium lines, I guess. So and we'll add some more layers here as we're working, but for now I'm just going to be on line weight medium and make that my current layer. Okay, so I'm going to start by just drawing the bottom or the floor of this elevation. It's a little bit bigger because I'm just being a little bit extra careless here, just to show you. You don't have to be too careful. All right, so now I'm going to start to use the clues here from these walls here and draw the extents of that wall. So this is the left corner of that wall, and this is the right corner of the wall. And if I look at that enlarged elevations on the handout, the ceiling is 8 feet. So I'm just going to offset 8 feet. And then I'm going to fill it or trim, either one. I'm just gonna clean up those lines. And voila, I have my first elevation here. Now we're gonna pull down lines like that also for the windows, etc. But let's get the 3 elevations blocked out first. Okay, so now I'm just going to go to the next one, and I'll start with my line, and I want all of my elevations to line up. So I'm going to start here, and I'll just O track. I have my O tracking object snap tracking on right here. So I've got that green dash line. I'm just going to come, more or less over here, draw that line. All right, so let me get the sides of this wall. Good. And now this wall or this elevation pitches up. Our ceiling is we've got a pitched ceiling here. Let me just look at my hand up here. And that is 12 feet. So I'm gonna offset just as a guideline here 12 feet. And I'm going to do filleting again. Or I should have done trimming just to show you trimming, but all right. And so that's going to come up. It's going to start 8 feet up, and it's going to go to midpoint of this guideline that I drew, and then it's going to come back down to 8 feet. So I'm just going to draw a guideline here. That's right at 8 feet. And I know it's at 8 feet because this ceiling height here is 8 feet. Or I could have offset here. I could have also just offset 8 feet. Either one. And the only reason I've got this line here is to get this endpoint so I can draw the pitch of the ceiling. So I'll start here and I'll go up to the midpoint and then go back down to there. And I can erase that and erase that. And then I can trim. Oh, so there is, I don't remember if it was 21 or 20. Maybe it's already set, but trimming now is a lot easier. You don't have to select a cutting edge. You can just select the pieces of the line that you want to trim. It's super nice now. So I don't remember if the old AutoCAD had that or not, but you can still use the old version of trim. It still works, but the new version now, it's kind of figures out what the cutting edges are and just trims up to them automatically. All right, so there is the profile for that elevation. So now let's just do the last one. I'm just going to do the same thing. I'll just offset 8 feet again. And then this time I'll trim this time. And you know what? Actually, I'm going to leave this piece of line and this piece of line. So why? Well, so when we are, so this corner here, so this is this elevation, right? This here is this elevation. Normally, for all of these elevations, the end wall kind of turns in toward us, right? We're standing in the room and this wall is turning in toward us. But in this case, that wall is turning away from us. And so there's a corridor here. And so we're we're going to actually see the floor and the ceiling of that corridor a little bit. So so this is the outside corner. So the sliding glass door will be here, and then this is the outside corner, and this is the hallway right here. So I'm going to leave this piece of ceiling and that piece of floor on this one. And we'll talk more about this when we get to that elevation. All right. So here we are. So why don't I start with, so we have, there's a bulkhead here, or a dropped soffit right here that separates the kitchen area from the family room area. And if you remember, the kitchen area has a flat ceiling, and the family room area has this pitch ceiling. So there needs to be some delineation, and that happens right at that point. So I'm gonna come down here, and it comes down a foot, and I'm looking at the handout. So I'm going to, I think I'll offset 12 inches. I mean, there's a lot of different ways I can do this. And that wall is, if you remember, does anyone remember the thickness of walls?
4 or 5?
5, yeah, good.
Okay.
So this bulkhead will also be 5 inches. So I'm gonna offset it to the right, and then I'm just gonna do some filleting and or trimming here. Okay, so this little drop here, this visually delineates between the family room over here and the kitchen over here. All right, so let's start. Oh, let's start with the kitchen. All right. Millwork. All right, so we have some cabinets here. We're going to see the side of the base cabinet over here in this corner here, and then there'll be a wall cabinet over here, and then there'll be another wall cabinet that we'll see an elevation over here, and then a window. So I've got some clues of my cabinetry here with my blue millwork layer here. So let's start in with that. All right, so I'm looking at my handout here. I just want to zoom in a little bit. So it looks like it's coming out 2'10" and a half. And I didn't make these this handout. If I did it, these dimensions would be a little cleaner. But so I'm gonna use O tracking, and I used it a little bit before, but just as a refresher, I've got my object snap tracking here turned on. And one of the things, and while I'm here, let me just go on my O snaps. So I've got my O snaps turned on also. And if I click the little button to the right of O snaps, my basic snaps here. So let me go through them: endpoint, midpoint, center, quadrant, intersection, insertion, that's for like blocks when we're inserting blocks, and perpendicular. Those are the sort of the essentials that we use. Now, very often I like to use nearest, but O tracking and nearest don't always play nicely together. So just to be on the safe side, I'm going to turn my nearest off. So if you are O tracking and you're having problems with it, it's just acting really weird for you and not working well, make sure that you check your O snaps and turn nearest off, and it will help you. Okay. So my O tracking is on, my O snaps are on, my O tracking is on, and I'm on my line tool. So I'm just going to hover over here, and I'm going to go up, and I see that green line. So I know that O tracking is working for me. And I'm going to go up 2'10" and a half. So 2'10" and a half is 0.5. All right, that's good. And then our countertop is going to be, if I remember correctly, 2'1". So I will just type in 2'1". And And that is, yeah, that looks correct. Okay, so now I also have the countertop, and I'm going to offset the countertop is 1¼ inches. So I'll just say 1.25. That's 1¼ and I will offset. I'm looking up for this counter. All right, so now let me close this off, the end there, and now I'm going to go back 1 inch, and then I'm going to go down, I guess, to the ground here. All right, and then we've got a toe kick right back here, and that toe kick is 4 inches up and 3 inches back. So let me go back to my line tool, and I'm going to kind of draw that in. So I will just O-track up 4, and then go back 3, and I'm just getting these dimensions right from the handout, and then go back down, and then I'll just trim this out, just clean this up a little bit. So there is our base cabinet all done. Now, if we had a backsplash, if you were going to put a 4-inch backsplash on, you would show that here, but we're going to do a tile backsplash, I think, or at least in this design, we're going to do a tile backsplash. So, all right. Now, hold on, let me look at my notes here. Okay, so I've got some wall cabinets, and these wall cabinets are going to go all the way up to the ceiling. So we're not going to have a soffit here. And the bottom of them is 4½ feet off the floor. And wall cabinets, if you remember, are almost always a foot deep. So I'm going to O-track up 4½ feet, 4'6", and that may not be on the handout, so you might want to write that down. And then the wall cabinet comes out 12 inches. That's pretty common. And then I'm just going to go straight up. So here's my base cabinet, and here's my wall cabinet. We're looking at it in section, or the side view of it. All right. So now I have here, let me go back to here. So if you remember, there's a corner cabinet here, and then we have these 2 odd little shelves here. This is a open shelf, or it's open on the side here for like a spice rack or plants or something like that. So I've got I want to show these in my elevation as well, and I have them here. So let me just use them rather than measure. I'm going to just go down and then over. That's that one. And then I will do the same with this. So now I'm using O-tracking here. Watch again. So I'll start there, coming down, and here's where I'm going to use O-tracking. I want to determine where to stop this line. So I'll just go over here to this intersection. I'm hovering over, and then I'm moving off to the right. You see that green line, and then that X, that's telling me that's where it's going to stop. And when I just left click, that line is exactly at perpendicular, or even with that where I clicked before, or not clicked where I hovered. Okay, and then I'll just trim out that stuff here. So again, this is like really cool because we don't have to measure this stuff. It's already in place for us. Okay, so now I have a wall cabinet over here. Actually, I'm going to draw a line all the way down because I think we may have a material change here from kitchen to family room. So I'm just going to delineate that change from with a line here. All right, so let's get this wall cabinet in. Just start here, come down and find that point. I'm just hovering and then moving my cursor. I get that green line. Good. So I'll just left click, And then I'll just go right to that line that I just drew. And then I'll get that. And this spice rack is not like, or whatever, this little shelf is actually not shown on that elevation, but I'm going to show it here. On the elevation in the handout. And then I'll just trim out this and this. All right, that's starting to look pretty good. I've got a countertop running along the back of that wall. So let me just draw that. Just using my line tool here. And I want to see the toe kick. That's going to certainly go across. And you know what? We're going to have a floor base here too. So while I'm at it, I'll just draw that line too. And the height of that should be 4 inches. Let me just use my measure tool just to make sure I got it right. Yes, indeed, it's 4 inches high. Okay. Good. The millwork here is just kind of blocked out, and that's fine. That's as far as we really need to take it, because like as I said before, I'm going to give you the opportunity to design this kitchen, and you may want to move stuff around and design your own base and wall cabinets. So you have some free reign when we proceed in the next couple weeks. But for now, just block the millwork out just so you have the outline of it. All right, let's do the window. So the window it looks like it's 3'4" from the floor, and it's 3'8" high. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to use offset here. I'm trying to use different tools here, but yeah, I'll just use offset. So I'm just going to offset 3'4". You could use O tracking if you wanted, but I'm just going to use offset. So, and this is just a guideline. So this is telling me where the bottom of the window is. It's just a guideline. And then another one, 3'8". And I'm getting these dimensions straight from the handout. So there, that is 3. That represents the top of the window. So now we need the left and the right sides of the window. Well, that's easily done. So I'll just grab that point, come down, and then I'll grab that point and come down, and let's fill it or trim, either one. Okay, nice. So let's get the casing on this window. The casings will be 2 inches. And how do I know that? Because these window mullions are 2 inches, so we're going to match them. Let me just go with my measure tool. There, it's 2 inches wide. So there's a couple ways I could do this. I could again draw lines down to get those casings. But I'm just going to offset. I know they're 2, so I'm just going to come around. And then I'll just trim, or I did text. Oops. I'll just trim. Or fillet would work equally as well, maybe better. All right, and then I have this is a 3-pane window. So these mullions are up here. So let's just pull these in. And I'm gonna just trim. Well, let me offset them 2 inches first. And now I'll just trim this. So another thing that you may remember or not is using a fence to trim. So rather than click the two objects, I can click off to the left or to the right, and then I get this dotted line, this line, and that is a fence line. And when I just slide it over, it trims both of those objects right at the same time. It's a really nice tool. I use it a real lot. And I'm just gonna erase those with a crossing window. All right, good. So now so that was one way to do this. And now what I need to do is I need to draw in some of the operable part of this window. So and that is let me just see, an inch and a half offset. So I could offset again 1.5 inches on all four sides, just like I did with the exterior casing for the overall window. Just come around, or I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this a different way. I'm going to turn these four lines into a polyline. And then when I turn them into a polyline, then this will act like a rectangle. And then when I offset, it will offset all four sides equally, and I won't have to do any trimming. So I can use the join tool. So I'm just going to type the word join. And it's asking me for the source object or multiple objects to join at once. So I can select all four of these lines. And then I'll just hit my space bar or enter. And doesn't look like it did anything, but watch, when I hover over it or select it, now all four of these are selected. And this is a rectangle. And this I could have drawn a rectangle here. It would have done the same thing. So the nice thing about this, and this is also so rectangle is a polyline. And so the nice thing about polylines is if I'm offsetting them, it offsets all four sides all at the same time. So I'm going to offset this 1.5 inches to get the operable part of the casing on this window. So I'll offset 1.5 inches. I'm just going to come in and point. It's done. Now I could have done it with this outer one, but I just did with line work just to show you the both ways. You can, if you want, when you do this one, you can again offset, and then trim. You can do that, or you can use join to join them all together and then offset. So the last thing I want to do here is I want to put a little handle on this thing. And this time I will use the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to use the eyeball method here, and I'm just going to draw a little rectangle, and then I'm going to move it so that the midpoint aligns with the midpoint of that casing there. All right, so now all I need to do is draw the same thing on this side, right? Well, yes, or I could use the mirror tool, another one of my friends here. So I'm going to click mirror, and I'll select this inner piece of the window, and then that, and then I'll just use the midpoint of the window here, just mirror it on the other side, and voila, we're done. Okay. I think what I'm going to do, so I've got some windows over here, but I'm going to switch to this elevation because I don't want time to run out on us, or I don't want to hold you too late. And I think that this elevation is an important one for us to flush out really completely. So let's switch over to this. Well, let's start with the fireplace. And again, I'm just going to use the plan, the little sections of plan, to select and define those areas on my elevations. So that is the limit of the fireplace, and this will be a nice stone pattern, hatch pattern we'll put on here. All right, so now let me, and there's probably some dimensions here that again are not on your handout, and so I'm going to give them to you now. All right, so I'm going to start with, we have like a base here below the fire, the fireplace. That actual fire box is right here, and then there's a, I guess, a hearth, right? That would be below it here, and that is 18 inches off the ground. So I'm going to O-track up 18 inches and go across. And that is the top of the stone hearth. And that stone piece there is going to be 2 inches. So I'm going to offset 2 inches down. Okay, so our fireplace, the firebox, it will actually sort of sit on top of this. So let me go back to this here so that we can just look at it and kind of figure it out. All right, so so that's this piece right here that I just drew. Now the firebox or the fireplace itself, it's got a curved top on it, and then this is a stone piece here, and then this stone piece is 8 inches high, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So so I'm gonna start with this arch. Now the arch here is from this side here is 18 inches high, and then the top of the arch right here where my cursor is, that is 2'5". So this is 18 inches or 1'6", and this is 2'5" right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to offset the hearth here up, so just so I get some guidelines so that I can draw my arch. I'm going to do a 3-point arc. So this will be the first point, second point, and third point. All right, so let me go back to here. I'm going to offset 18 inches. And again, that's a guideline. And then I'm going to offset 2'5". 2'5". Okay, so that is the top of the arch. Seems kind of steep, but okay, well, whatever. So now I need to find the width of the fireplace. Well, that I can get from here. I mean, I could measure it if I wanted, but I'm just going to come down here and get the width of that fireplace. Okay, so now I'm going to draw my arc. Let me just make sure I've got this right. Oh, you know what? Okay, so I did this 18 inches here. Scratch that. I'm sorry. That's the back of the fireplace is 18 inches. It should be 1'10". So I'm going to offset 1'10". I'm really starting on the right foot with you all. There, that looks a little better. Okay, so now I'm gonna do the arc here, and well, I'll just use a 3-point arc. So I'll go over to arc here and write mine. If I just hover over it, it says 3-point arc. That's exactly what I want. But yours might not say 3-point arc. So if it doesn't, there's a whole plethora of arcs here. Just find 3-point, click on it, and then we can do a 3-point arc. So I'm going to start. My first point will be that intersection. My second will be the midpoint up here. And my third will be that intersection right here. I'll turn my ortho off. You can leave your ortho on, but I'm turning mine off just so you can see a little easier. There is my lovely arc. Good. So I don't need these guidelines anymore. So I'll just take those out. And I can actually trim or you know what I'll do? I'll fillet that and that. So there is my cute little fireplace. Okay, so I have this lintel up here, this nice stone curved lintel up here, and that is 8 inches. So I'm just going to offset. You can offset arcs. So I'll just offset this arc 8 inches. Beautiful. And then I'll just connect the dots here, these lines, just to get the ends of that lintel. All right. So now we want to draw the back of the firebox, the fireplace, or the back of the the inside of the fireplace. So that is where that 18 inches comes in. So now I'll offset 18 inches. Let me go back to this. So this line here, this is the 18 inches, right? And then these vertical lines here, that's the very back wall of the fireplace, and these are sort of the angled walls that angle out from the fireplace. So let me go back to my plan. So this is that back wall, and it's only 18 inches high. And then these are the two angled walls that I was talking about. So let's just draw some lines and get those in place. Good. And I can fill it. I think I'll just fill it. That. Good. And then the last thing is that it's where this top part and this angled wall meet is gonna be on an angled wall, angled line here. So I'll just use my line tool. I'll start here, and I'm gonna go perpendicular on this arc. So I'm looking for that perpendicular sign. There it is, and I'll just click. I'll do the same on the right side. Line tool, start point, perpendicular. All right, so there is our fireplace. Very nice. Okay, so now we've got a mantle up at the top, and it's going to be supported on two big old brackets. So let's draw the mantle first. That is 4'3" from the top of our of the sill here. So I'm just going to go up 4'3". And so now let me see here about this mantle design. Bear with me here. Do I have it? I do have it someplace. Oh, here it is. Okay. So I just sketched this out to show you how this mantle actually, works, or how it attaches to the wall. So this is our stone wall here. You're kind of looking at this in isometric view, and and there's a corbel over here. It's 8 inches deep by 6 inches wide. It's got a little 2-inch front on it, and then the mantle itself is sort of constructed on top of these corbels. So it is 2 inches high, and then there's a lip or a top to it that is 1 inch high. So we drew the very top, this line. That was the thing that was 4'3". I offset 4'3". So I'll offset down 1 inch to get this bottom edge, and then another 2 inches to get this bottom edge. And then we'll draw this corbel. So the corbel will be 8 inches high by 6 inches wide, and it'll just have a little 2-inch offset up the top. Okay, let me move that over. So I'm just gonna offset down offset 1 inch down, and then I'll offset again 2 inches down. So there's sort of the the actual mantle. And then we've got those two corbels over here. And I'm just going to kind of draw them off here to the side. I'm going to use my rectangle tool. And that rectangle again was 6 inches wide by 8 inches high. So I'm just gonna, let me zoom in here. So I'm just gonna, when we're drawing the rectangle, remember we're first drawing or identifying the width or the horizontal dimension. So that is 6. And then I can either hit comma or tab. I'll hit tab. And now the 6 is locked in place. And now I am selecting the height, and the height in this case is 8 inches. So there's the corbel, and then there's just a little 2-inch flat piece, and I'm just going to use the line tool, and again I'm going to O-track down 2 inches and then across. So there's my corbel, and that corbel is set 12 inches from the edge of the fireplace. So I'm going to offset 12 inches just to give myself a guideline here. And now I'm going to move this corbel so that this corner of the corbel goes right to that intersection there. Beautiful. And I'll just get rid of that guideline. And then I can draw the same thing over here, but I'm going to use mirror here, and I'll just find the midpoint. Let me turn my ortho on. Okay, that looks pretty good. So the last thing I've got here are some sconces. So now these sconces that we're going to use, those are not in your 2D blocks that you have, but they are in Blackboard. So if you go into Blackboard and go under class content, go to classes, and then go to project 8, right here is the fireplace sconce. Fireplace sconce.dwg. If you right click on it and then click save as or save link as, mine is already going to it because I've already downloaded it, but I'm going into my 2D blocks, and then I'm going into my architectural elements folder. So I'm in 2D blocks, architectural elements, and then save. I'm not going to save it because I already have it in mind. I just wanted to show you how to do it. So then you will have this sconce in your 2D blocks. So I'm going to access my blocks. I like to do it using the insert tool. I just type I and enter, and my blocks palette comes up. And I'm going to go to my 2D blocks and go over to architectural elements. And oh, here it is, fireplace sconce. And then I'll just drag it into my drawing. So, and for now, I'm going to close this. I don't really need it, but you know, I'm going to move this so that it kind of lines up with that corbel. And then I'm just going to move it up, and I'm just going to use, you know, what I like to call the eyeball method. I'm just eyeballing it. You know, you could get it exact if you want, or put it wherever you like, but that's, I think, where I'm going to put it. And then I'm just going to mirror it onto the other side because that would be the easiest thing to do. So, and there, I think, is our lovely fireplace. Now we do have that beam that's running across the right at the ridge of our ceiling here. So let's just draw that in. That I don't have. I didn't pull that over, but if I go back here, let me use my measure tool so I remember that beam is 8 inches wide. Okay, that's fine. So if I draw a little guideline down here, that would mark the center line of the beam. So I'm going to offset both ways half of 8 inches, which would be 4. So I'll offset, offset 4 inches to the left and to the right. And it looks like it's coming down 6 inches. So I'm going to use my line tool and I'm going to O-track here. I'm going to O-track from that intersection and I'm going to come down 6 inches. Personally, if I were designing it, it would come down a little more, but that's fine. And then I don't need this, so I'll delete that. And I will just do some trimming. This is starting to look good. Good. All right, I'm happy. So let's move on to the bookcases. So we'll do one over here. And then once we get this one done, this one's identical. So we can just either copy it or mirror it over to the side. No big deal. So let's dig in with the left one. So the first thing I want to do is draw a toe kick. I'm going to offset. That toe kick is going to be 4 inches high. So I'm just going to offset, or you could, of course, use O-tracking and go up and across. And that probably would be easier because now I have to do some trimming. But either way would do it. You know, you could O-track up and go across or offset. All right, and the top of so there's a base cabinet down here, and then there's shelves above. And the top of that base cabinet, the countertop of that base cabinet is 3 feet off the ground. So I'm gonna O-track up 36 inches or 3 feet. Just go across. Beautiful. And the countertop itself will be 1.5 inches thick. So I'm going to offset 1.5 inches. Not up, but down. Okay, that looks pretty good. And then I have my, let's see here. I've got my shelving up above. And that is the top. So the top of the shelf. Okay, let me go back to handout here so that we're all looking at the same thing. Because, you know, I always want you to know what you're drawing. Let me just zoom in here. So what we've got here is we got our shelves up here, and then right up here, this piece right here is a piece of crown molding. And if you remember when you did the lighting plan in CAD 1, we put some track lighting up here, or some lighting up here, lighting tape or LED tape light up here to wash this piece of wall up here with some light, and that's going to sit behind this crown molding up here. So this crown molding, the very tippy top of the crown molding is 7 foot 9.5 from the floor. So I'm going to O-track up 7, 9.5. So now let's look at the crown molding while we're here, if I can find it. Hold on here. Let's see. I know it's in here someplace. There it is. Okay, so here is the crown molding. So the crown molding looks like it's 4 plus 1. So it's a total of 5 inches high, right? So this is the back of the crown molding, and this is the top of the bookcase, and the bookcase comes down here. So when you're standing, you're out here and you're looking at the crown molding over here. So what are you going to see? You're going to see, so first of all, it's 5 inches high, and you're going to see a 1 inch flat piece. And then at the bottom, you're going to see a 1/2 inch flat piece. And then you're going to see this curved OG. an OG is a curved piece of millwork. It's spelled OGEE if you've never heard of it before. But whenever you see this curved S-shaped piece of crown molding, it happens a lot, but it happens in other molding too. That's called an OG. So we're going to see a flat piece at the top of the crown molding that's 1 inch, 1 inch high. And then we're going to see a flat piece at the bottom of the crown molding that's a 1/2 inch high. And the total height of the crown molding is 5 inches. Okay, so keep those dimensions in mind. I'm putting it on my other screen here. So first, let's get the top of the crown molding, which was 7 foot 9.5 inches from the floor. So I'm going to O-track up 7 foot 9.5 inches. I'll just go across. So that line represents the top of our crown molding. So the crown molding itself was 5 inches. So I'm just going to offset 5. And then there was a 2-inch flat piece at the top of the crown molding. So I'll offset, wait, was it 2 or was it? No, it was 1 inch. So I'll offset 1 inch down. And then there's a little 1/2 inch flat piece at the bottom of the crown molding. So I'll offset that 0.5. I'll go up with that. And then this is the curved OG section of the crown molding. And we're not going to show any line work for that. But when we render, and if you have crown molding in your kitchen, you can render that in Photoshop, and it'll show a nice curve and shadow there. So we'll talk about that later. But as far as the elevation is concerned, we only want to see those sharp corners where at the top and the bottom of the flat pieces of the crown. Okay, so now I have 3 vertical trim pieces, one on this side, one on this side, and one in the middle. And actually, they're really not trim. They're actually support pieces, particularly the one in the middle, because you know, a one continuous shelf all the way across here, that's pretty heavy. So that's 7 foot 2 wide. So each of these vertical trim pieces are 3 inches wide. So I'm going to use my line tool. I'm going to O-track over 3 and then go straight up right to the bottom of my crown molding. And then I'll just do the same on this side. I could mirror that, but I will just O-track over 3 and go up. Either way would work. Okay, so now we have one more in the middle. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna draw myself a guideline. I'm big on drawing guidelines. I do them a lot because they help me. And you know what? Actually, I drew that guideline too long. So there's a guideline, and that marks the center of the trim piece that's in the middle. So, and that trim piece is 3 inches wide. So 1/2 of 3 to the left and 1/2 of 3 to the right. That's 1.5 inches. So I'll just offset 1.5 inches to the right and 1.5 inches to the left. And I don't need that guideline that I drew. And there are my lovely trim pieces, or supports really, for the shelves. Okay, so now let's move on to these shelves. It looks like the first shelf, and again, I'm just looking at the handout here. Hold on, let me just adjust my handout because it's wonky on my screen here. Okay, so that first shelf looks like it's 1 foot 3 from the top, from this countertop. So I will just, again, I'm going to use some O-tracking, and I will O-track. I could offset this 1 foot 3 if I wanted, but I'm going to O-track. Go up. Hold on, let's do it again. O-track up 1 foot 3 and go across. And it looks like that piece of that shelf itself is 1.5 inches Well, that's pretty hefty. So I'll offset 1.5 inches down. So there's our first. Okay, so the next one is 1 foot 1 inch up. So again, I'll use my line tool and I'll go up 1 foot 1, go across, and I'll offset 1.5 inches down. So there's my second one. And then the third one also is 1 foot 1. But you know, I can just again I could do it the same way, but I'll just show you. I'm going to copy this time. So I'll just copy that shelf. I'll use this as the base point and then go up, get that third one up. But you could do that, or you could O-track up, either way. All right, so now all I need to do is the same thing over here, or I can mirror or copy. So this time I'll copy. So I'll just grab all of them. I'm using a crossing window here to snag them all. And then I'll just use this point here as my base point, and then I have the same type of point over here, so that'll be my end point. So I'll use that point and then copy it right to there. Beautiful. Okay. So now let's get some doors on this millwork here. Now, I'm just going to tell you that these doors are 30 inches high by 19 inches wide. I'm just giving that to you right now. So I'm going to draw these doors. I'm going to draw one of the doors, and I'm going to use my rectangle tool. And I'm going to draw it out here so it's not in the way of anything. So again, when I'm using the rectangle tool, the horizontal direction is first, and that is 19. And then I'll just hit my tab key. And now my 19 is locked, and I can get my vertical dimension here, which will be 30 inches. So the reason I use the rectangle tool is we have some rails and stiles on this door, and those rails and stiles are 2 inches. So I'm just going to offset 2, and just like we did with the window, I've just pulled that in, and now I've got my stiles and rails for that door. So now the last thing that I want to do is show how the door swings and where the hinges are. So I'm going to draw a line here, and I don't know if we've talked about this in the past, but this is the architectural symbol here for a door. And whether that or something that swings open. This could be a door or a window, or in this case, a cabinet. Anything that's got a hinge on it that swings. This is the symbol, and these will be dotted dashed lines, and we'll talk about that in a second. But this symbol goes from the corner, one corner of the door, to the midpoint on the opposite side, and then back to that corner. And this point here, or that, this side here, where these two angled lines connect, this tells whoever's reading your drawing that this is where the hinges are going to be. Now, it doesn't mean that the hinge is right here. I mean, it could be there, but the hinge most probably will be up here and down here. But this tells whoever is viewing your drawing that the hinges are on this side. So we know that this door opens, the handle would be on this side, and it would swing open, to the left in this case. So, but we do need to get these lines to be dashed, a short dash. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer. So I'm going to go over to my layer properties here. Or maybe I already have a layer. Do I have millwork dashed? Oh, you know what? I do have a millwork dash layer here. and I can use that. And but maybe you don't. So I'm going to create a new layer. Maybe if you have this millwork dash layer, you're golden. But if you don't, I just want to go through the process of creating a new layer that has a hidden to line type on it. So I'm gonna just start a new layer here. Create it. This little button right here creates a new layer. By default, it gives it layer 1. And I'm going to call this line hidden to. So I know that this is a line, and it is the style of it is hidden to. But you might be, and the only reason I'm not calling it is millwork dash is because I already have that layer. So you know what, maybe. Well, yeah, I'll call it line hidden to. All right, I'm going to give it a color. In this case, it's already by default set to 151, and that's actually the right color I want to put it in. And wait a minute, you know what? Let me. It's already given it the hidden to layer. So let me delete this layer. Let me start again. I think I deleted it. Wait, let me just undo it. All right, so let me, I'll go on to my line weight medium so I have white and continuous. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I will call this line work hidden to. You would probably call it millwork dash because it's for the millwork. All right, I'm going to change the color to what did I say? 151, which is kind of a light blue. And I'm going to change my line type to hidden to. So I'll click on continuous here and find hidden to. If you don't have hidden to here in your line work in your lines, you can load it. So if I just click load here, a whole plethora of lines come up here, and you just need to find hidden to, not hidden x2. That's a really long line, but hidden to is the short line. Okay, I already have it, so I'm going to hit cancel here. So I'm going to change my line to hidden to, and I'm going to set my line weight to 0.20. That's fine. That's a nice thin line weight. Okay, and I'll make my millwork dash line current. Okay, so then all I need to do is just take the lines and put them. There's my line work hidden to. And those lines are a little bit long for this tiny little door here. This would look better if it was on a real door. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play with the line type scale of these lines. So I'll just grab them, and I'm going to open up my properties palette. So I have my properties palette collapsed on the left side of my screen. So when I hover over here, my properties palette comes up. But if you don't, just to remind you, you can go over to view, and then you can click on properties here, and your properties palette will pop up. And if you like it collapsing here, you can just click this auto hide button here, and then it collapses. And because I use properties so much, I just always have it on my left side. And so when I just hover over here, it's there. So, okay. So I'm on my line work hidden to, that's the one I just created. And my line type is by layer, which is what I want. And I'm going to just tweak this line type scale. I'm just going to make those dashes a little shorter. So right now they're set to 1. I'm just going to put them at 0.5. Yeah, that looks a little better. Okay, so there is my door. So I'm going to have a pair of doors here, and I'm going to have a pair of doors here. So this pair will be centered on these shelves, and then this pair will be centered on these shelves. So to help me locate this, I'm going to draw a guideline here, And, oh, I'm on my, let me go back onto my, on my line weight medium layer. I'm just going to draw a guideline here from just from the midpoint of the shelf so that, you know, it kind of lines up here. And then I will just grab all of this and move it right to, let me turn off my ortho here so you can see, just right to that intersection, right at that guideline there. So this is a little bit short here, but I think that that's fine. And I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to leave it just as it is. So I don't need that guideline anymore, so I'm going to erase it. So I've got one door, and now let's just mirror to get the other door, right? So I'll just go into my mirror tool, grab that door, and then mirror straight down. Erase source objects, no thank you. And there I've got one pair of doors. So now I just need to do the same thing over here, right? So I can, well, I'll do it this way. So I'll just draw a little guideline here. And then I'll just, or you know what? What I was going to do was I was going to copy it over, but you know what? I'll mirror those doors. So let's just mirror, and I'm just going to grab them. I'm just using my crossing window to grab all of them. And then just find the midpoint right there. Go straight down. And I think that looks pretty good. Yeah. So any questions? All right. Am I going, let me know. If I'm going too fast, let me know. But I'm assuming that you can all keep up. And if not, you got the recording. All right, so I'm going to mirror this whole piece of millwork here right on the midpoint of my fireplace here. Put on my ortho here. And voila, we have everything except for the hatch on our fireplace elevation. So let's do the hatch. So the first thing I want to do is make sure that the hatch is on the right layer. And I believe there is a hatch layer. And sure enough, there is. So I'm going to set my hatch layer to current. There it is. And I'm going to go to my hatch tool, which is right here. It's on the draw palette here, right in the lower right-hand corner. And I click on it. I get my hatch palette, and the areas that I hover in are the areas that it's going to want to hatch. So what I want to do first is to check what the hatch is. And by default, it remembers the last hatch that you did. So the last hatching that I did was solid. So that it is hatching everything solid. It's not what I want. What I want is gravel. So I'm going to click on this little button down here to get this hatch palette here and find gravel someplace on here. Here it is, gravel. And they're in alphabetical order. I actually didn't know that. All right. So then I'm just going to go in, and it's hatching it, but it is in a really, really tiny little hatch. So let's just change the scale of that hatch. Right up here, the hatch pattern scale is set to 1. I'm going to set it to 20. And I'm not sure how that's going to work, but let's just try it. Actually, that's not too bad. I actually like that. So, okay, so I'll just click in that area, come down here, click in that area, and come down here and click in that area. And there we've got our hatch. So, okay, so I'm going to tweak this one more thing. You don't have to do this, but this is just me being me. When I see, so the hatch pattern, you know, there's a repeat on this hatch pattern, and you can kind of see it by these big boulders here. They're kind of like in a line going across, and that's fine. It looks okay, but what I like to make it just look a little less apparent is what I like to do is I just like to rotate that hatch just a tiny little bit, just so that those hatch patterns aren't running across. So all I did was I just clicked on the hatch, and then uh, my ribbon up here changed back to the hatch pattern. Uh, and right above the scale here is an angle. And I'm gonna just, I don't know. I'm just experimenting here. I'm just gonna say 20 degrees. Let's just say. Maybe 50. So yeah, now you're seeing it on an angle, but I don't know. For me, it just kind of looks a little bit better. You can do it or not and play with it. You also don't you're if you would prefer these boulders bigger or smaller, you can of course change your scale on it. I just want to give you some leeway as to some creativity here. Okay. So, that elevation check, I think looks pretty good. So we got as far as this, and I'm gonna, you know what I'm gonna do? So we've got two windows over here, and we've got millwork over here, and uh and then that window is going to be carried over here. I think I'm going to do the windows next week. I am, but just for continuity's sake. So I think I'm going to stop here actually. So we'll do, so next week, depending on my eyeballs, we'll do this elevation, and we'll do this elevation with the door over here. We'll concentrate on that, and then I think we'll also do the key plan for the whole, for the sheet 4 that we're doing.